Good morning, and thank you for tuning in to the Office of Teaching and Learning webcast. I'm Amanda Ellis, Associate Commissioner of this great office, and I'm so glad you tuned in. Today, our focus is going to be on the minimum high school graduation requirements, but before we get started, I want to remind you to please log in to the gosoapbox.com. That's probably at the bottom of your screen with our password of being OTL. This gives you an opportunity to ask questions for clarification and be able to interact throughout this webcast. I'll have it up here next to me, and we'll be able to address your questions at the end. So let's go on and get started. So right now we are in the process of getting minimum high school graduation requirements revised and updated. We've gone for a first read in August, and so we're in the area now where we're taking feedback. We are clarifying any questions you may have, working on the details to go back for a second read in October. So I want to go through with you what we're proposing. Again, these are not approved or finalized, but just so you know what's coming. So the role of our Kentucky Board of Education that has any kind of influence on this regulation is that they are called to promulgate administrative regulations relating to the courses of study for the minimum requirements for high school graduation for students to earn a diploma. And the courses of study are established in the Kentucky Academic Standards, so it's aligned to the standards that are established for each content area. Currently, our requirements are that each student shall have a minimum of 22 credits for high school graduation. Many of you have many more requirements at the local level, which you absolutely have every right to do. But for the minimum, it's set for 22, and the standards-based learning experience shall align to the student's ILP. And so this is something that you've heard a lot about. 2 weeks ago, we had a webcast about updating and revising the ILP, the importance of it, that it is a system, a process that we build throughout the students' education career in our districts, and how we help them to determine some possible career interest as they move through the courses from middle school into high school. And so this is what the current regulation discusses, and obviously we're keeping that because it is all about the students. So our current requirements are English language arts. We currently require 4 credits of English 1, 2, 3, and 4. Mathematics, we require 3 credits of Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. There is language in the current regulation that requires a 4th math credit in the 4th year. That's an elective and up to the discretion of the student that aligns with the ILP interest. 3 credits in social studies, 3 credits in science that incorporate lab-based scientific investigations and experiences, a half a credit of health, 1/2 credit of physical education, 1 credit of visual performing arts, and 7 electives. From the time we revised these minimum requirements till today, as we are preparing for revision, additional requirements have passed through the legislature. So currently this year, we are implementing the passage of a civics test that was passed 2 sessions ago. The students must pass the civics test throughout their high school career and be finished by their senior year. Information is on our website about that, but that is new. The upcoming requirement will be instruction in financial literacy, either through a course or a program that passed this past session, with information coming out from the Career and Technical Education Office about parameters around that that's being worked on. And this last session also implemented the demonstration of essential skills, which is also being developed and will be implemented, I think, next year. The demonstration of technology skills was also in the current requirements as identified, and is going to be suggested to remain. So before we get into the proposed credits, one of the things I want to remind you of that are also in the regulation currently as it stands is that the early graduation parameters and outlines, the requirements of passing the 4 tests and the benchmark, that will still be in that same regulation. And as you know, the information for early grad will be coming to you about the assessments. We will maintain those, and you will have information from OAA about that, as well as what's in the current regulation of required remediation based on benchmark scores is also a part of that, which you will not see in this proposed regulation. So let's move into what we are proposing. So in the foundational level, what this means, it doesn't mean that everybody has to be on the same track at the same time. This is just what we see for most freshmen and sophomore, those foundational level courses, meaning that no matter if they're going to go a technical route, if they're going a pre-college route, if they're going a workforce route, when we all got together and had shareholders give us feedback from all job sectors, all careers, and post-secondary. These are some things that they felt like were essential learnings. So we're proposing the 2 English credits be English 1 and 2, 2 math credits be Algebra 1 and Geometry, 2 science credits, 2 social studies credits, 1 visual performing arts credit, a half of PE, and a half of health. Now, that does not mean that that fulfills 2 full years worth of credits. As you know, it does not. There's still electives in there, and there is still an opportunity for students, if the districts allow for advanced courses in the middle school to take place. That is a local decision, and so these are just what we're proposing as the base requirements for the first couple of years of high school. These are not the only proposed requirements, but within this foundational time. What you will also notice is that there will be, in ESSA, we are required, and through Senate Bill 1, we're required to assess all high school students in reading, mathematics, science, and social studies once in the high school years. We would take the reading and the mathematics exam at the end of the sophomore year. That's a part of accountability. It's not an additional exam, but they would have that for accountability purposes as well as graduation requirements. So there would be a cut score, a span that would allow students to fulfill that requirement to demonstrate foundational reading and mathematics skills. That is something new that we have not done in the past that's being proposed. So it is not an additional exam. It is a part of accountability, but it would have a dual role. One of the pieces of this that we get many questions on is, what if a sophomore doesn't pass the reading or the mathematics? Do they have another chance? They do. They would have 2 additional times in the junior year and 2 additional times in the senior year to take that exam as it is proposed to demonstrate an understanding and demonstrate mastery of those skills. There is also an appeals process for those who may have severe test anxiety or issues that would cause them not to be able to perform well on the exam. There would be an appeals process for evidence of collection of information and approval through their local board and possibly KDE. So that is something that is new, and I wanted to bring your attention to it. The next level is where we give a little bit more flexibility. The feedback we received from over 4,000 comments, as well as from our advisory groups, from our job sectors, our post-secondary is, and especially at our school districts, is you need to give us more flexibility. Students start to really look towards their career, their junior and senior year. It could start sooner, and many do with some of the new and exciting pathways that start freshmen, but for a large majority, juniors and seniors begin taking those dual credit classes. They begin taking the career pathways. And so this personalized level, if you notice what we're proposing on the credits, we've backed off on the exact courses and leaving that up to the local district, and really hopefully what is aligned to the student's ILP on helping to direct them in the pathway in which they are interested. The thing I want to bring to your attention before we walk through these is that it still should meet the expectations of our standards or exceed those standards. So if you'll notice, in the personalized level, we're requiring 2 English credits, 2 mathematics credits, 1 science, 1 social studies, and then it gives opportunity for more additional advanced coursework, work-based learning experiences, career pathways. Many students take different pathways that they are interested in, and it gives the flexibility to align their work and their courses with the career interests that they may have. It doesn't mean that they're stuck in it forever. They can change their mind, but they can definitely align their courses instead of fulfilling requirements or compliance. And so again, this would be aligned to the ILP. Now, juniors would take the science and social studies exams. One thing I did not mention is that we are moving towards an end of span exam for all 4 the reading, the mathematics, the science, and the social studies, no longer EOCs to specific courses, but would be an end-of-span, meaning it would cover more of the standards over a span of the standards, not just one specific course. And so that is a change. Now, the science and social studies exams would not impact graduation requirements, but it is required in accountability. Students would also still take the college entrance exam that is required by Senate Bill 1 2017. That would still be there to take their junior year, and as it is stated in Senate Bill 1 2017, sophomores should be taking that as well, so that would be forthcoming. That would not impact your graduation requirements. Then the last piece of this we're requiring, that many people were worried when they saw the personalized, that they were worried that the level of expectation and rigor of courses would impact students in a negative way. This piece brings it all together. So as you are probably familiar with in the accountability system, we have what we used to call college career ready. We have changed that to career and academic readiness, transition readiness. So we're proposing that this also becomes a part of our graduation requirements. Currently, 90% of our students are graduating high school, yet 65% of them are considered college career ready. So there is a huge concern around what are the students who are not graduating college career ready experiencing. How are they experiencing success? Are we preparing them for what comes after high school? And so there is a definite effort to align those expectations that all students should be expected to be ready to leave, whether it's in the academic and career, but there's definitely some options there that need to be considered for all students. So as a reminder, what academic transition readiness would mean is if a student were going for that transition readiness, or both, many students do both, is that to be academically transition ready, it would be scoring at or above the benchmark score determined by CPE on the college admissions exam. This would be in two areas for the reading and the mathematics, or the quantitative reasoning and the social sciences. Completing 6 or more hours of KDE approved dual credit courses and receive a grade of B or higher. These would have to be meaningful courses that cover basically your 4 core areas. The arts would count, but definitely not electives that are not meaningful for their academic career. Completing 2 or more advanced placement courses and receiving a 3 or better. Receiving a score of 5 or higher on the IB exam, on 2 of the exams, scoring at or above the benchmark on 2 or more of the Cambridge advanced examinations, or you can do a combination. Perhaps some of your students met the benchmark for reading, but they needed to pursue the mathematics in a different way. Maybe they took 1 dual credit class in English, and they took an economics, AP economics class, and passed with a 3 or better. So there's a way that you can do a combination. That was outlined in the accountability system, not for graduation requirements, but we are aligning that. For the career ready option, you have scoring at or above the benchmark on industry certification as approved by the KWEB on the annual basis, scoring at or above the benchmark on the career and technical education end of program assessments for articulated credit, or completing 6 or more hours of KDE approved CTE dual credit courses and receiving a grade of B or higher in each course, or completing a KDE approved or labor cabinet approved apprenticeship, or completing a KDE approved alternate process to verify exceptional work experience. This was outlined in Senate Bill 1 2017 as well, and so KDE is working on parameters around these options, especially for apprenticeship and the exceptional work experience. As you all may know, there are lots and lots of funding opportunities for students, scholarship opportunities for them to take advantage of dual credit courses, to have their entire CTE dual credit pathway courses covered, the AP, IB, and Cambridge exams for those who qualify as for free reduced lunch prices. They would have support on the fees for those exams. So this is definitely not cost prohibitive, but really an opportunity for students to explore and be a part of advanced learning and different opportunities that are very career focused. And so these are what we are proposing. So overall, basically, we're still proposing 22 credits. What we're doing is we are providing an opportunity for students and an expectation for them to demonstrate foundational understanding in reading and mathematics, as well as giving the flexibility on courses as long as it aligns to our standards or exceeds those, to be much more career focused on where they want to go when they leave us. And it does give the flexibility for districts to build onto this and have the opportunities. The other main piece of this that you'll probably notice, which is why we had the ILP discussion last week, is this is about building out futures for students, which is going to change how we've created the ILP, how we've worked it into our systems, and our focus on each and every child and their opportunities to succeed after they leave high school. So I'm going to stop there. There's been a lot of information shared with you. I'm going to actually log in to see if we have questions from our Go Soapbox, and we'll be happy to answer those. While I'm waiting for questions, I will go on and give you the 5 things to know before you go. So I'll give you a minute to see those. There's some really important deadlines and information coming in. And let me go through these, and a couple questions are starting to pop up. So the intervention survey, the deadline is September 30th. There is a link that will be in this PowerPoint. It was also in the Commissioner's email yesterday. So in response to House Bill 187, 2018, schools will not have to enter data into the intervention tab in Infinite Campus for all K-3 students for Tier 2 and Tier 3 in reading, writing, mathematics, and behavior. Now the statute requires districts to provide the KDE with survey data that includes the type of evidence-based research interventions being implemented in reading, writing, mathematics, and behavior in kindergarten through grade 3. To meet these requirements for the 18-19 school year, each district must submit this information. As of yesterday, we had only heard from about 30 districts. This is imperative that you share this information. We will contact you because this information goes straight to the legislature on the interventions that are being implemented in the district. It is a district decision if you want to use the intervention tab. The only things that are required to use the intervention tab for this year is ESS, the Read to Achieve grant, and the Math Achievement Fund grant. Outside of that, it is up to the district to decide how they want to use the intervention tab and if they do. However, the survey we've sent out is required, and we must know the information that you're submitting by your district. So please make sure and meet that timeline. The data will be pulled for ESS, RTA, and MAF still on October 30th, January 30th, and March 30th. And if you need information on these requirements, you can visit the Infinite Campus Intervention tab page on the KDE website, or you can contact Pam Winiger Carter, and she has an email that we have linked into this as well. The other thing that is coming up is the Career Study Standards Review. It is time to revise those standards, and especially with the Essential Skills Bill that passed, it is very timely. So applications are being accepted for the Career Studies Review and Development Committees and Advisory Panels. This is following a very similar process that we've used for our social studies, reading and mathematics standards process. We are doing the same for career studies. So KRS calls for the, 1586453 calls for the review and revision of the academic standards every 6 years. So this year's standards for career studies, formerly called vocational studies, will be reviewed and revised based on the processes that are outlined in that statute. So we're seeking teachers of all grade levels and post-secondary educators to apply to participate in this work. Applicants will be required to meet in Frankfurt 2 to 4 days during this school year. Selected team members will receive reimbursement for travel expenses. Substitute teacher expenses will be reimbursed to the teacher's school district, and potential applicants are asked to verify their willingness of their school or districts to release them for work throughout this year. It is extremely important that you can be at all of the meetings that are required to really capture and revise in a meaningful way using the feedback we receive from the public. The online application will be posted for 30 days and will be accepted through October 10th. Selected team members will be notified shortly thereafter. So please, if you're interested, do that. We are also in the revised social studies standards feedback window. Please give your feedback on this. We are seeking the feedback on the revised standards for social studies through September 27th. Anyone interested is invited to review the revised Kentucky Academic Standards for Social Studies to share feedback, suggestions for use during the remaining development process of the new standards. Feedback and comments will be thoughtfully considered, and any needed revisions made before bringing forward for a final set of proposed standards to the Kentucky Board of Education for action. The current schedule calls for implementation of revised social studies standards in the 1920 school year, and the last revision to these standards was in 2006. So we are clearly way overdue for these revised standards, which is why it's imperative that you provide your feedback and input on how we can make this stronger. Questions for this can be directed to the email, which is standards@education.ky.gov. Also, we have accountability reporting. Quality assurance is September 13th. The Office of Assessment Accountability, along with district assessment coordinators, will coordinate a quality control day on Thursday, September 13th. The purpose of this QC day is to identify systematic issues and accountability data before any public release. DACs will receive preliminary comprehensive support and improvement and targeted support and improvement identifications of those schools. Data are being reviewed for systematic issues, and if issues are found, it could change an individual school's classification. This will be the last viewing of data before the embargoed release to districts. Please see the Commissioner's email for more information. And then the last announcement before we get to questions are Tuesday 25th, September 25th is our next webcast on targeted support for improvement, schools, and district responsibility. A lot of information, a lot of deadlines. So we do have a few questions, and I will do my best to answer those. The first question says, what will the college entrance exam be? Will it remain ACT or change to SAT? If is it the ACT for the current school year? So currently, the Office of Assessment Accountability, led by Rhonda Sims, is finalizing that process. They have not announced a vendor, but they said they should be able to do it within the next few days. And so that will be forthcoming, and that information will come out, I'm sure, through a special email once that vendor is identified. Would ELL students still be expected to test out of services on access to graduate in addition to being transition ready? I am going to defer that to OAA to make sure that I am accurate with that information, but I will send a written response through the email when we send this PowerPoint, and I apologize that I don't have someone from accountability in here. Their expectations are still aligned to what is laid out for ELL students, but I will give you specific feedback on that question. I apologize I don't have someone with OAA with me. Will the graduation requirements for ECE students on an alternate diploma track change as well? They will be updated, but not significant changes. And we do have our special education partners involved in this, as well as the advisories to help give us feedback. But the alternate diploma will still remain, and the requirements will still remain. It will not be significant change for the students who qualify for that track. When has the survey link and September 30th been communicated? It was communicated last week and again yesterday, and we can send it out again because it is very important and it is different. And so that is a change for this year that passed not until the end of July or was written, finalized into law until July. So we apologize for the late notice, but that was sent last week and this week, but we will send it again, so make sure that you have access. And that looks like that's all the questions. I will follow up with the ELL student question that was submitted. I want to thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments about the graduation requirements, please feel free to email me. My email is on the global. It's amanda.ellis@education.ky.gov. We appreciate your comments. We appreciate you tuning in and caring about this. This is impacting all students. The one thing I will say is if this passes, one of the questions we usually get is when will this take effect? And it will begin with the freshmen of 2019. And so the reason we are going forward with this reg at this time of year is so we can get the information into the hands of counselors and SBDM councils to ensure that you all have time to discuss course offerings and any changes that would need to be made for the following year. And those planning times begin now, and we realize that. So we're really trying to be sensitive to the school calendar because it's not always on the calendar that aligns with the legislative process. And so we appreciate your patience on that, and please feel free to give us feedback. Other than that, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.